How's your Christmas, bro?
It was beautiful.
It's good.
It was really, really good. I was telling Rose last night, I was sad that Christmas was over, and taking a page out of your book, we started like watching Christmas movies every night, or just finding something that had some kind of like Christmas theme to it.
Yeah.
But Christmas is such a beautiful time of the year, man.
Yeah, I love getting in the festive mood, eh?
Yeah.
So I could tell the audience, I had this mad plan to like watch a Christmas movie every night, and I was going to give reviews on Instagram and be like, hey guys, 4 stars, 3 stars. But I didn't realize how hard it is as a grown adult running your own business to watch a 2-hour film every night. So I started good. First 7 days of December, watched a movie, reviewed it, and then there was like a whole week gap, and then watched another movie. But the main thing is, like it's my tradition, I have to watch Home Alone 1 and 2.
Amazing.
And I managed to get it in right in the clutch on Christmas Day.
Okay.
Once everything kind of stopped, me and Lauren were like, all right, let's just take some time to ourselves. We went home and we just like, ate snacks and just watched Home Alone 1 and 2.
Amazing.
Drank some Pepsi like Fuller, and it was good. But
a little while ago, I saw that this theatre in Sydney was going to show Home Alone 1 back at the cinemas. So I booked tickets, we took the kids, and the cinema was packed. It was full of families. And it was just so funny, like everyone laughing at like the really funny moments together. The kids had an amazing time. And yeah, like once I saw that you watched Home Alone 1 and 2, I'm like, you know what? It was Boxing Day. I'm like, I'm going to watch Home Alone 2 tonight. And yeah, it was really good. So no, but it was beautiful, man.
The movie's timeless.
Yeah.
It's timeless, man.
It's like the best Christmas movie for me. Like the Home Alone series for me is like the best, like Christmas movies.
Yeah.
I like watching Love Actually.
That's up there.
Yeah. Die Hard. Remember Ernest Saves Christmas?
No, I haven't seen that one.
It's an old one, man. Do you remember that one, Ads?
Yeah.
Okay. So I didn't get to watch that one, but it was beautiful. Santa was great. I got like some nice gifts.
Awesome.
Everyone was happy and healthy, and it was just so great, like you said, just to seeing everyone just in such good moods. And it might be like for lots of different reasons. Some people are celebrating, obviously the birth of Christ and what that might mean to them personally. Some people just love celebrating Christmas because it means, they might not be religious, but they're spending time with their family, with their friends. They're taking like time away, time out.
Totally, man. My hairdresser's Muslim, and I was asking him like, what did you do for Christmas? Did you spend some time? He's like, yeah, like my family gets together, like, because everyone's got it off anyway.
Yeah.
So they spend time. And I think like, regardless of like, the decorations and the trees and the movies, it's just that sense of like community.
Yeah.
That's the beautiful thing about it. And sometimes we get lost in that because Christmas can become really stressful for people, trying to get the right gifts, trying to like, organize like the events and trying to fit it in your calendar and all these things. And then like we forget the underlying message, just that sense of community and spreading love and joy with each other. And that's the underlying message behind it all.
Spot on, man. I feel that too. And, I have clients who are atheist, agnostic, Christian, Islamic, you name it. And I feel like the central theme was there. It's like, this is a time of the year to celebrate love, kindness, giving, community. And yeah, it was just perfect. I just had an amazing Christmas. I wish it wasn't gone. So today's what? What's today's date? It's the 28th. Yeah, so it's just gone by. I'm still going to watch, which I told Rose, we're going to keep on watching Christmas movies though to the end of December.
That's a good idea. So I can't do it. Once Christmas happens, it's cut off.
No, we're like, okay, we'll do it for the rest of the year. But something that I was a little bit more conscious this year, and again, like I learned so much from my wife, and this isn't to get brownie points off or anything like that, but she's like, you got to remember though that Christmas is also sometimes a really challenging moment for some people. They might have lost a loved one, a friend, they might be alone. So just to like be conscious of that as well, just to really ask, how people are going, how they're feeling, inviting people over. And I've never really reflected on that before in the past. I've always just thought Christmas is a really happy time of the year. But for some people, it might be like a very sad time of the year because previously it was such a happy moment. So that made me feel really grateful to be able to experience another Christmas with my children, with my wife, with my parents, with my family, with my friends.
Totally, man.
So
it's good seeing. I saw a lot more messages about that on social media this year.
Yeah,
like people putting stuff out about that, and it's really good because sometimes we do live in our own little world and we only know what we know, and I think it's good, like, being in the line of work that we are, we see so many different people, different clients, and, we understand that there's like just so many different worlds out there that people are living through. And same thing, man. Like, it's sometimes you're kind of a bit like, it's that fine line of like, you should be so grateful and like celebrating what you have, but it's also being mindful of like the other people and stuff and what they're going through. And it's, like even suicide rates, man, they go up this time of year.
Yeah.
October to December is crazy.
It's sad, man. That's why I never really reflected on it like that.
Yeah.
And so I really meditated on it. I thought about it a lot. I prayed about it just to get some clarity. What were your thoughts in terms of, because I saw something that I've seen like a theme, maybe it's probably because of the people that I follow on social media, and I've got like my family and friends on there, but seeing so many people really sharing the message of like, Merry Christmas. Some people being a little bit scared to say Merry Christmas and just saying like Happy Holidays. Like, I was actually wanted to ask you, like, how do you feel about that?
Are they scared to say it because of the religious connotation, or is it?
Yeah, I think so. Like, because like Christmas is Christmas, right? So like,
why do we celebrate it?
Yeah.
What's the origins of Christmas, right? It's the birth of Christ.
Yeah.
It is what it is, right? If I'm in Malaysia, I'm going to say, Hari Raya, because it's a Muslim festival, right?
Yeah.
I'm not going to say Happy Holidays.
Yeah.
It is what it is. Like, it's...
I love that. And because I feel the same, because I don't think there's anything wrong with like wishing someone Merry Christmas or, Happy Hanukkah, or when my Islamic friends celebrate Eid, I congratulate them and on their celebrations. Yeah, I was just like, but when I see sometimes people just write Happy Holidays, I was just like, okay, that's just interesting. Like, are you scared to say Christmas? Is it offensive, towards your religion? Is it offensive towards your personal beliefs? I just found that interesting. That's all. Yeah,
I think it's important to not water down the purpose behind it and the reason for the season. You know what I mean? Because that's what we're here for, and we're celebrating that. But then, obviously, it doesn't mean that you have to be a Christian to celebrate it.
No, not at all.
But it's good to acknowledge what the day is for.
Yeah, because I feel, for me, Christmas, it's a celebration, in terms of our religious beliefs. We believe in Jesus, we're Christians. And so I celebrate the birth of absolute truth. I celebrate the birth of love, like, someone that represents so much love, so much kindness, so much peace, so much non-judgment.
So much unity.
Yeah. And so that's why when I see Christmas in Australia, even religious people, they're just so happy. Like, they're celebrating that love, that kindness, that unity, that community. I just think that's really beautiful. Yeah,
I don't think people should be forced to say Merry Christmas. If you don't want to say Merry Christmas,
Correct.
Don't say it. But people shouldn't be like, I guess, ostracized or feel conscious for saying it if they want to as well, because it's the reason for the season.
Yeah.
Well,
look, man, today's podcast, we're going to be... Actually, you know what? Before we talk about what today's episode is about, I think it's important for everyone to know who's seeing the video today. We didn't purposely choose to wear the same hat or have our hair out the same.
Our mum's dresses.
Almost wear these see-through shirts. When I walked in, I was like, oh, fuck me.
I was driving over and I was thinking, I wonder if Johnny's going to wear his hat today. I had it in my mind. You know what I mean? We look like fucking that movie Twins.
It's like
Vincent, we're brothers. We walk together. We talk together.
It's like two brown guys with like see-through shirts, wearing like a hat and hair out and mustaches.
Yeah, the mustache too.
So it's just like, and I saw Jonas yesterday at grappling and he's like, oh, you got a mustache, Johnny? I'm like, yeah. He goes, yeah, it looks good. I'm like, you sure?
Does he have his? He's got the beard out.
He's got a beard. Because
sometimes he'll just get a mustache.
He should have a mustache. But I just wanted to put it out there. So if you're watching the video, we didn't do this on purpose. But yeah, I was like, walked in. I was like, it's made me extra conscious now.
Yeah. As soon as I saw you walking up the stairs, I'm like, fuck.
But look, so even before we get to the point of today's topic, also like we got some good news. Hopefully in January we're going to be getting like our own little space. We're going to be setting up our own little studio, which is fantastic. So we're not going to have to be like the traveling of the sisterhood pants?
The sisterhood of the traveling pants.
That's it. I completely fucked that
Carrying
up.
our little table around.
Yeah.
But,
so we'll have a little own studio. We're going to set it all up. Thanks to our sponsor from last year. We're going to be able to use some funds to really set it out.
That's Mitch, right?
Yeah, it is Mitch.
Awesome. So cool.
We're going to be able to set things up amazingly. So also like a huge thank you to my brother-in-law Juan Carlos and my sister-in-law Flavia for being so generous enough to allowing us to create a space that we can use. So, 2025 Serve Podcast is looking amazing, kicking goals, and might as well also like announce it. In 2025, we're going to be also launching another show called Roadmap, where a little bit different to Serve, where it's not done once a month. I'll be interviewing guests every week. So the goal is to interview psychologists, psychiatrists, doctors, mothers, fathers, athletes, all different types of walks of life. And the idea of Roadmap is to be able to then give something tangible for our audience to be able to use to create their own skills and tools, to create their own roadmap to better their lives. And so I've got already, like I was telling you boys, like 5 to 7 guests already lined up for that. So incredibly excited to do that. I'm going to be interviewing yourself. I'm going to be interviewing Adam for that show as well, just to hear, so I guess members can hear your personal stories in so much more detail, because I truly believe you guys have so much to offer as well. I learned so much from you guys, and 2024 has had its challenges, and so I'd love to talk in detail about those things with you guys. But enough of that stuff. Today's episode is all about purpose, about us finding our purpose in life. Or what
it's a good segue. You're just talking about roadmap, and you know what I mean? So it's awesome.
I guess I would ask you, Shane, so purpose. What do you think the purpose of life is? What do you think your purpose is? How do you define that? How do you view that? What does your Christian beliefs tell you about that? What does your interest in Buddhism and Hinduism say? Like your views on Stoicism? I know there's a lot there for you to unpack, but I'd love to get your idea on purpose. Then I'll pass it over to Adam, and then I'll chime in as well, man.
Man, it's probably the most broadest question you could ever ask. Hey, like, what is purpose? And the thing is, like, everyone is going to have a different subjective answer to that. And, even if you ask the same person that at different stages of their life, they're probably going to have a different answer to what is purpose, right? But I guess if you're asking me right now, the way I would describe what purpose is to me, purpose is living a virtuous and authentic life in order to serve the universe, right? And the key word there is authentic, right? In order to play a role in this world, which is your purpose, you have to then understand your internal world. So I think that, and we'll kind of branch out about this later on, I think that purpose and finding purpose is not so much about the external, but more so about the internal. And that's just kind of like, I guess, a really brief explanation of it, which we'll kind of unravel throughout the show.
Okay. Ads, over to you, man. How do you view purpose? Like, what do you think what is purpose?
Yeah, my purpose, it changed a bit, obviously. It probably did for you as well when your kids came around. It makes you think about that. I think I was being told more by people what my purpose should be. When you have a kid, everyone's kind of telling you like, oh, well, it's all about them now. It's all about them. It's all, you change your life for them and whatever. And when I actually think about it, I don't know that my purpose has changed since Connor's come around. I think I was talking to Shano about it the other day, because he put me onto a book recently that I've been reading, The Way of the Superior Man.
Oh, yeah.
And he addresses purpose in that, talking about how, men do need a purpose, and, it should come pretty instinctually to them what that purpose is when they think about it.
Yeah.
And so, when I thought about it, I was like, I don't think my purpose is to be a dad. I love being a dad, and I give everything to Connor. Everything I have, I give to Connor and Collie, and I get exhaustively so. But I still feel, to me, my purpose is to experience as many things as I can, learn as many skills as I can, to have a fulfilling life and feel like I've tried everything, I've made the most of it. And in turn, I hope that Connor, seeing that, he can take that and run with it and do things that I was never able to. sort of just to make the most of life, to experience as many things as possible, to learn as many things as possible. Yeah, I'm hoping that by living a life like that, he can take it and have the most fulfilling, beautiful life and treat others with kindness as a result of that, and just live a loving life that he just gets to experience everything. Because yeah, otherwise, to me, I don't know what other reason what other reason could there be, right? Like, yeah, especially when you look at the fine chance that all of us are alive at all. It's something that I always try and remind myself of. I did a deep dive years ago about, like, I started thinking about, I think it was when my mum did the family tree of our ancestry and everything, and I was looking at all the interweaving trees going back and back and back to all these people, and I started thinking, you know, what are the chances that that person met that person back in the 1700s or something, and that combination led to these people, and they've met each other, and that combination led to these people and these people, and all the way down to my parents and their grandparents, and then to me and my brother. And then I think about, like, with Collie and I, what are the chances that we came together to meet to now make, like, our son and all this sort of stuff. And then when you multiply that by then, you know, when it comes to sexuality, things like how many sperm there are every time a male ejaculates and things like that, all of those things are astronomical. You're taking into account that my Collie's parents, one was from Birmingham, her dad was raised in Birmingham, her mum was raised in the Philippines, and they met in Australia to make Collie and her siblings, and then I met Collie. I think last time I checked, roughly for around people our age, I think that the chances of us even being alive are like 1 to, I think it's 10 to the power of 10 to a million or something like that. That's 10 with a million something odd zeros after it. Like,
okay,
the chances of us being alive are that astronomically small. Like, why wouldn't you just try and experience everything and make the most of it? So to me, I always try and think of that crazy, it's funny, like, coming from my non-religious background, it's like I'm using something like math or science to give myself the purpose to get through things. I think of, whenever I make a decision about what I should do, I think about that astronomical number, my chances of being here, and I think, yeah, I should just do that thing. I think I should. Yeah.
Man. Honestly, we experienced our first miracle the day we were born. You know what I mean? And when I ask people, like, do you believe in miracles? Like, and if some people say no, it surprises me, because literally the fact that we're here, sitting here, that we came to this planet and we were born, you experienced your first miracle already. You know what I mean? And I gave one of my clients this task to do, where I asked her to write down a miracle that she witnesses every day, right? And I told her, like, you know, every day you wake up, that's a miracle already. And so she was writing down every single day a miracle. And then at the end of the week, she just realized how blessed we are, how blessed you are, you know what I mean?
That's why, like, I find it so odd when people reduce life to something meaningless or nothing special. Or even just to, like, an anomaly, like to a random statistic. I don't know. I just feel that you're right. Like, life is so precious. Life is so important, and it is a miracle, right? Just what are the chances that, you know, your son was born specifically? You know, the chances of someone else being born. And that is so beautiful. And touching on your point, I think you said something really important, Shane. And it was about, like, being authentic. Like, that is so true, because I'm someone that's definitely experienced, a tremendous amount of change the last couple of years. And stealing a point that you made a couple of podcast episodes ago about, if people met you now, they would think you're being disingenuous because you are such a different person. And I feel like I'm in the same boat. You know, there are parts of my past that I simply am unhappy about, you know, parts that make me upset when I think about it. And getting to know my true self now, my true nature, what I'm really like, that has really changed my perception or perspective, on what purpose is. And if I was to summarize purpose for me, and definitely my religious beliefs do influence this. Because when you are in love with your partner or you're in love with your child so much, you think that your purpose in life is just to be a father, is just to be a mother, or just to be a husband or a boyfriend or a girlfriend. But that's just a part of your life, but it is not your sole purpose. And so when I reflect on these things now and I read the Bible and I pray, I now have noticed that my purpose in life is to serve, is to give back to my community, is to give to my family and friends. And I do that through my religious beliefs. And it's not just because I want to get in, the good books with God. That's not why I do those things. I want to build a relationship with God. I want to build a relationship with Jesus. I look towards his life in the Gospels, use him as an example on how I should behave. He created that roadmap for us to follow. And then I'm like, well, what's he talking about? Like, what does scripture say about life? And that's when I realized, I'm like, a lot of this is about serving people. The purpose of life is not to be happy. I love being happy, but if you make the purpose of life just to be always happy, you're going to fail miserably with that. And even when I study the Bible, I'm like, not even Jesus promises you happiness. He promises you peace. They're two very different things. But the more that I started to reflect, the more I started to think, it's like, no, I want to serve people more. That is my purpose in life. It's to serve my children, to create a good example for them on how to live their lives. It's to serve my wife, to provide her with as much love as I possibly can, to take care of her. And it's, to serve my community in terms of like my generosity, in terms of help and support. And even like, that's why we started this podcast. It's, I made a promise to God, if he could please take care of my health, that I would really start to make changes and start a podcast with you and to help serve our community. And the messages that we get about our show and how much it's helped people, that purpose is there. And that's why, I came to you guys and I was like, I really want to do another podcast. I really want to do another show that's weekly. Like, I want to give more. Because we live in a really funny age right now. Things are so challenging. Things are so difficult. Things aren't as simple as they once were. And it's just such a fast-paced environment. And, we kind of get caught up in this way of thinking of being perfect, perfectionism, we just want everything now. We're pretty greedy. And so that's why I wanted to, start recording a weekly episode where I'm like, people are suffering. People need help. Who can I interview that can give some tangible tools for people to use? And that's me serving my community. That's me doing more, for God as well. And so, I look at now purpose as you made the beautiful point of being your authentic self, but through service as well. Yeah. And that will greatly impact and influence, your decisions in life because, and I might cop some flack for this, I might cop some hate, but you need to also then look at what you're doing in life. It's like, well, what are you doing as a profession? Like, what do you do in life? And then what do you do outside of that profession in terms of offering help, in terms of giving? And I'm guilty at this I'm guilty as well for this because, I used to be all about, I'm giving to this, I'm giving to people, I'm trying to help people. But it was all about inflating my ego. It was all about, I'm going to build a fucking empire. I'm going to grow this. I'm going to grow that. None of that was service, right? None of that was to give to anyone. It was just to give to myself. And then when you realize that, the chips fall down really quickly then. It's painful. It's hurtful. But it gives you such a profound lesson in life in what you need to change and how you can grow things. And so,
I think, and I think living that, understanding how to live a virtuous and authentic life, you have to really do that inner work, right? And, finding your purpose, going on a spiritual journey, all those things, it's ugly.
Yeah.
It's not like, I think sometimes people try to find the just the good stuff about spirituality and take that because it's like a band-aid, makes you feel good in the moment. But it's not what it's about. It's not what spirituality and like, I guess like, that whole concept is about, it's going to look ugly before it looks pretty. Do you know what I mean? And there's that phrase, blessed are the peacemakers, right? Yeah. And I don't know if I mentioned this in a previous podcast, but when you look at that phrase, blessed are the peacemakers, right? The difference between a peacemaker and a peacekeeper is a people pleaser. They play nice. They don't want to make noise. They don't want to disrupt, right? And the thing is, when you do that, it's so hard to live an authentic life, right? You're not doing things to hurt people. You're not doing things to aggravate people. You're not doing things to trigger people, right? But you're understanding that the waters are going to have to be stormy. Whether it's your relationship with yourself, relationship with the people around you, it's going to have to get stormy before it gets calm. And the thing is, a peacemaker understands that they'll have to do whatever they need to do as long as it aligns with their purpose, right? Yeah. And the thing is, when it comes to your purpose, like you said, Jesus gave us a roadmap, gave us a blueprint on how to live your purpose. People kind of water it down when they talk about Jesus' story and say, oh, he was a human being like you and I. No, he is God in human flesh.
Yeah.
Right? He showed us, right? People were complaining, saying like, God, like your commandments, your expectations were too big. So he came down in human flesh and showed us how to live a godly life.
Yeah.
Right? He gave us a blueprint and he knew what his purpose was. When Jesus Christ came to this planet, he knew what his purpose was. His life was prophesied by hundreds of people for centuries before he was even manifested on this planet.
Yeah.
Right? That's why when you talk about his life, it's amazing. It's literally the most unique and special life that has ever existed. Right? Over 300 people prophesied his birth, his life, and his death centuries before he was even born. That's crazy. And when people like kind of talk about like Nostradamus and Confucius and all the stuff they're prophesizing, this is way bigger.
Yeah, man.
Right? And the fact is, right, everything that he did, every step that he took, every word that he said, every action that he made linked to his purpose. He never strayed away from it, right? It didn't matter if he had to cut people out of his life. It didn't matter if he had to add people into his life. It didn't matter if he had to literally get whipped and nailed to a cross. Nothing came before his purpose. And
stuck to his guns, right?
Yeah, he was a peacemaker. He wasn't a peacekeeper.
Yeah. That's so beautiful, man. It really is. And I try to keep those things at heart as well. When I'm trying to make decisions, even with like my career, even if it's like, say, with the businesses that I run. I finished reading this book called Finding Ultra by the Ultraman and podcast host, Rich Roll. And he talks about at the end of the book, and I loved this part. He'll talk about developing goals and like smart goals, so goals that are specific, they're measurable, they're like attainable, they're relatable, all there's a time constraint on it, but he adds an extra S at the end of it, so SMARTS goals. And the S at the end is about how does this goal help serve.
Oh, that's cool.
And I love that. And so when I've been thinking about like my 2025 goals, I've been really thinking about that as well. It's like, does this goal help serve my community? Does this goal help serve my family, my friends? Or is this goal just serving myself in a negative way? Because there's nothing wrong with goals serving yourselves. But is it going to, is it like a positive thing? Or is it going to pull me back into, bad habits? And so I've been really, really thinking a lot about those things. And that's why, I've been speaking to you a lot and getting mentored by you as well. It's how I want to serve my personal training clients. And I've been meditating now for over 2 years. I've been getting into my breath work as well. And that's why I approached you. I said, hey, you know what? I want to start adding meditation and breath work to my clients because that practice has profoundly changed my life, and that is a gift that I want to share with people. But I was being authentic and vulnerable with you, but saying at the same time, it's like, yeah, but I don't have any direct qualifications in these things, and I feel a bit weird doing it. And you told me like, hey man, you just have to go for it and just just be honest about it and just be sincere. And I did those things. And now the meditation sessions that I've been running with my clients has been just so beautiful because I've just been honest with them. Because to be honest, before I would have bullshitted about it. I would have just lied. But now I'm like, and I got advice as well from my coach, Mark, where he's like, just be honest and ask your clients, like, would you like to come on this journey with me? These are skills that I've been developing and learning. I'd like to share these things, but I'm not very experienced in coaching them. Will you come on this journey with me? And I felt so weird doing that because before I'd be like, I'm going to sell it to them, but as a pro. But then you're just starting off in such a disingenuous way, in such a shitty way. And doing that has just been so liberating. It's been so beautiful, especially then seeing clients then where at the end of the meditation, I'm like, okay, in 3 seconds, we're going to slowly open your eyes. 3, 2, 1. And I see them open their eyes so slowly and they just didn't want to open their eyes. They were just so peaceful. I'm like, are you okay? They're like, that was the best thing I've ever done. And that was like so rewarding, so beautiful. And so it's now adding those things to my practice, to my businesses, to just serve people better, rather than just myself. And even with the Wolf Life Academy, with the Jiu-Jitsu Academy, it's not this money-making machine. It's not. It's to run our academy is so expensive. We went, from one location where the rent was really low to essentially going to another location where the rent was more than double, and then having so many coaches on board and paying for so many different things. Like, it's an expensive venture.
You guys go above and beyond too. Like the seminars you guys throw for us for free. Like, there's a lot.
And it's like, I've had those moments where I'm like, man, do I even want to do this anymore? But then I see how much it serves my community, like how much it helps people. And I'm like, no, I want to continue doing this. I really want to continue doing this. And
I mean, one of the big things for me is just look at this room. Like, how did we all meet? It was through jiu-jitsu, right? Like,
that's right.
How many more connections like that have been made at Wolf Life?
In
different
and even like Professor Paulie, when he said that Christmas message out, right?
Yeah.
And he was saying he had like a really rough year, had a lot going on, but like this was like home for him, being there. It just kind of like helped his mental health. It's those little things. It's those underlying things that we do. And like, when we can link our work to our purpose, it's so much more fulfilling, right?
And that's why I was like, I had a meeting yesterday with Timmy and we were really touching on that. For those that don't know, Tim's the other owner of Wolf Life. And I just said, we have a responsibility to continue to serve our community, to continue to provide, even if this thing doesn't turn any profit. We need to continue being a part of this community to support our members. And we can definitely do things better. And so having this mindset really influences what I do in life. So
that's there's these 12 laws of the universe, right? And the first law is the law of interconnectedness. And that law states that, even though we are all here on this planet and we have our own unique blueprint, our own unique path, and we all take our own footprints in the world and leave our own footprints rather. We all come from the same source. So because of that fact, we have a duty and responsibility to help heal each other as well, right? So that law of interconnectedness kind of states that, hey, we're here to heal ourselves. We're here to, build this relationship with ourselves. We're here to serve our purpose. But at the same time, we are all interconnected because we all come from the same source.
Yeah.
And that summed it up what you said, man. Like, we do have a real like duty and responsibility. And once you understand your purpose, that's the key thing. You understand the duty and the responsibility. It's like what Ad said about, Connor, like a lot of people, and again, this might trigger people as well, but I think that being a parent isn't a purpose. It isn't a purpose. Do you have a massive duty and responsibility? Yes. Is it, one of the most special things that you'll ever do on this planet? Yes. But I think a big mistake, and I can say this because I lived this mistake for a long time, is when you attach your purpose to external things, because external things are not guaranteed and they're out of your control, right? And your purpose shouldn't be out of your control. That's why your purpose has to be internal. It has to be within. And like what Adam was saying, he understood that, like, since having Connor, his purpose hadn't changed, right? He knew his purpose was about himself, about learning more about life, experiencing life, you know, trying to be the best person he could be. And as a byproduct, Connor will see that. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And because the thing is, like, you know, and some people might say, Shane, you don't have kids. What are you talking about? How can you talk about this? But I only know what I know, right? And I think that sometimes people will want their kids to be a certain way when they kind of attach all their expectations. But the thing is, your kid might not turn out the way you want them to be. But all you can do is just be the best version of yourself. You know, live your purpose, not your kid's purpose, not your wife's purpose, not your friend's purpose. Live your purpose.
Yeah.
And then what you're teaching them is not to be like you, but you're teaching them how to live their purpose.
I've got 2 children, you know, aged 4 and 7. And I can agree with you and say the purpose in my life is not just to be a father. You know, something greater than that is the example that you leave behind. That is the legacy, right? I would love for my children to be like, we've got this, you know, father who was so honest and open about how he wasn't happy with who he was. And he started to apply changes in his life. He was loving, he was kind, he was giving, and he was about serving his family, his community, and most importantly, his God. Like, that is beautiful to me. And yeah, I would agree with you 100%.
Man.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. There's even, it's funny, even though he's like only 18 months old, I can already see these, like, because they're like sponges, like Jonny would know. When they're that age, anything you do, they're picking up on. And one thing that I make a conscious effort to do in life is, if I go to places regularly, I make sure I find out the names of, like, people, say at a cafe, I find out the baristas' names so I can approach them on a personal level and I can address their names, because I know it makes a big difference on their end. So everywhere I go regularly, I'll know the people's names, and if it's a hard name to remember, I'll write it in my phone so I remember it. And when you go, you can see it literally lighting up their day when you address them by their name, because so many people just look past them and don't, like, just see them as the vendor that they're going to. And it's so funny, like, when Connor goes in to these places in the pram with me, or if I'm carrying him, if I'm addressing someone and saying, like, oh, hey Sam, how's your day going? Oh, hey Dan, how you going? He's like waving and smiling at them, and already he's learning through my actions how he should be with people, and he's already lighting up people's lives, and he's not even speaking words to them yet. He's literally just smiling and waving. But I think he's seeing me set the example of, this is how we greet people. We treat them with love and kindness, and, you know, you brighten their day. And
it's that interconnectedness, right?
Totally.
Yeah. And it's beautiful, man. And, like, you know what's the crazy thing? Like, I was telling Adam before as well that on Christmas Day, because we were trying to, like, run around and try to organize when to see people, because my brother had to go to his in-laws and we wanted to give his kids presents and stuff. So I ended up missing, like, a lot of the Catholic church masses, which I don't, like, get too fussed about. I do love going to church on Christmas Day and celebrating the birth of Christ, but, like, I couldn't link up everyone's timetables with the church masses for the Christmas Eve or the Christmas Day mass. And Lorna used to be part of, like, the Hillsong community, and she was saying, oh look, there's a Hillsong mass at 10:45 a.m, which is like a random time. I'm like, that would work perfectly. We can go to my mum's house, give everyone their presents, and then we can go to that mass. And when I got there, they were talking about the birth of Christ, right? And so this isn't from me, this is from the person that was on the screen talking about it. And he said something that really kind of resonated with me that I never actually thought about when I was reading the Bible and reading about the New Testament. And going back to what we talked about, how the birth of Jesus was prophesied for years and years and years, right? Centuries, rather. The king at the time was King Herod, right? And when he heard that Jesus was born, obviously he's been hearing about these prophecies for a while, that this person that's going to be born on this day is going to be the king of all kings.
Yeah.
So he was threatened and he was worried, right? And, you know, that's why, like, he ordered for all the male children in the area to be killed, because he didn't want this person to take over his kingdom, right? He didn't want to give up all his luxuries, his throne, his gold, his myrrh, all those things. He wanted to have all that. And so he was feeling threatened when he heard, oh, this King of Kings is going to be born, right? But then when you look at the life of Jesus and you look at the life of the kings at the time, there was nothing majestic or royal or luxurious about Jesus, even when you look about his birth, right? He was born in, like they say a manger, but it was literally a trough that they feed animals in.
Yeah.
Around animals. There's nothing royal, right, about that, right? Even the fact that Mary wasn't married to Joseph. You know, Mary, was she married to Joseph? Or did they get married after? I think they got married after she was.
They were married.
They were. Hey,
yeah.
Because I remember
they just hadn't. He didn't want to consummate with her until Jesus was born.
That's right. Yeah, but like I think even like Jesus was like, you know, considering like divorcing Mary, right? But until the angel Gabriel came to Joseph in that dream and told him that it was true what Mary was saying. And if you think about, you know, even now people get kind of like worried and conscious about getting divorced and what are the family going to think, what people are going to think. Imagine back then, right?
Yeah.
The fact that Mary and Joseph had to live with all that criticism, all that judgment back then, right? Again, purpose, living their purpose, putting that aside. But there was nothing glorious about Jesus' life, even to the way that he was, you know, he wasn't praised on the street like a king. He was judged, he was criticized, he was mocked, right? Even when he was carrying his cross, about to get crucified, people were spitting at him, throwing stones at him, laughing at him, right? And it makes you think, like, he's the king of all kings, but look at his life, look at the way he was born, right? And then you start to understand that all those prophecies weren't talking about him in the way that we see kings in this external world.
No.
The kingdom that he was ruling was his internal kingdom. He was teaching us how to rule our internal kingdom.
I agree.
Right? That's where he's the king of all kings, right? And I always hear this phrase, right? You know, Satan owns this world, right? But God owns this world. And that's where we should be living, right? It doesn't matter who's in government. It doesn't matter what's happening outside. It doesn't matter all these things. And, you know, I was so lost because I was living a lot of my life in this external world, serving human masters, right? And there's a Bible passage I'll read out about that later on. But I was serving all these things and I was constantly trying to find my purpose in this external world, right? All through my 20s. I just wanted to understand why the fuck I'm here. What reason am I here? What am I meant to be doing with my life? You know, I was doing so many different uni courses and studies and I never liked any of them. I never felt authentic. It never aligned with me. I just hated it all. I felt like a flop. I just kept dropping out of courses. I'd finish courses and just hated my job, didn't want to do it. You know, like I was married to my partner, but, you know, like I just kind of like was always looking for validation elsewhere. Like, you know, I cheated. I was doing all these things, right? Because I was just never satisfied. Right? Had this beautiful house. I think I said this in the last episode too, but like I wasn't satisfied with the house. I wasn't grateful. I was just kind of like, no, this isn't where I want to live. There's something else out there. I need to be overseas. I need to be somewhere.
Yeah.
And the thing is, if I didn't find the answers internally, I would be searching for the rest of my life till the day I died. I would never be satisfied. It didn't matter who my partner was. It didn't matter where I lived. It didn't matter what car I drove. It didn't matter what job I had. Because I was seeking external comfort or an external purpose, I was never going to be satisfied because everything that I needed to look for was the opposite way. I needed to do a whole 180 and look inward, right? And that's when I found my purpose, right? And the thing is, like, one thing always, I guess, if I could give one piece of advice on purpose is don't attach it to anything external. I even said it in a previous episode about Soul Flex, right? I love my business and I can really utilize it to serve my purpose, right? In a very authentic way. But if it was taken away from me, I should still be able to serve my purpose.
Correct.
Right? I love Lorna. I love my relationship with Lorna. It's like so healing. It's the most beautiful relationship I've ever been in, right? Apart from God. But nothing is guaranteed. It might sound morbid, right? It's very, I guess, like, like morbid, but like, you know, something could happen. Like she might break up with me tomorrow. Who knows? Those things are out of my control. The moment I put all my purpose into someone or something else, they control my purpose and I don't control it anymore. Right? I can appreciate and love everything in the external world, but my purpose has to be internal. It's between me and God.
I 100% agree, man. And I used to look for so much external validation in everything I did, even as a coach. So I used to run this health challenge called 30 and 30. And it got pretty popular at the gym that I was running it out of. I started off with like 5 people doing it. To a point, there was like 100 people doing it. And it was generating like heaps of money. And the whole point was 30 minutes a day for 30 days. How much can you change your body? And I got so many before and after photos from it. So many. It was a ridiculous amount of weight loss that this challenge created. It was like over 10,000 kilos. It was something crazy. But it was all for external validation. Because it was like, you see, I'm the best fucking trainer. You see, my method works the best. And if I could go back and talk to myself, it would be like, what are you serving here? Are you really serving these people? Or are you serving yourself? Are you serving that insecure child that wants to be propped up and felt like a king right now? Versus the kind of coach that I am now. And that's why I don't really share I haven't done it in a long time. That's why I don't share before and afters anymore. And there's nothing wrong with before and afters. Like, I understand you need to sell your business and all those things, but my intention was wrong. And I haven't spoken to anyone about this. This is the first time I'm actually mentioning these things. I've spoken to my wife about it. And so now when I'm training clients, I'm really thinking about, how am I serving them? How can I best serve you? And that is no longer, because it's like, how can I serve you in ways that align with my values and my beliefs? If my God is telling me to be non-judgmental, to be loving, to be kind, to give as much as I can to people, that really changes things. And that's why I want to share things like meditation and breath work with my clients now. That's why now I've been getting my clients to start a journal so they can start writing in their diaries. And I will, prompt them with questions. It'll be like a question of the week, something to meditate on. It's just so different now because I'm really trying to serve that inner person now, my higher self. And even in my own relationship with my wife, I really wanted validation. I wanted to make sure that my wife loved me, that she was truly in love with me. And now it's not that. I know she loves me, but just as important, or even more important, is that I need to love who I am. And the reason why I was seeking so much validation from her was because I hated who I was. I did not like who I was. I did not love who I was. And so now that I've made that switch in fuel from getting to giving, I started to fall in love with who I was. And it's a lot of work because at the same time, it's such a painful exercise. Because once you start to fall in love truly with who you are and the person you're becoming, you do start to see your flaws. You do start to see the mistakes you've made and who you've fucked over. And that sucks, right? But at the same time, I pray to God about that. I ask for forgiveness. And there's nothing more I can do with that. That's out of my control. I can't control whether someone forgives me or if they hate me or any of those things. But making those changes, making that switch in fuel has made a dramatic change, a dramatic difference, and that sincerity. And so I was telling my wife, I was actually even telling, because we're right now filming in Sebastian and German and David's workplace, OPG. So thank you, boys. I was telling German because I've been coming into this warehouse, and you can't see it here, but I've been coming down to this warehouse occasionally on days and giving my brother a hand and the boys a hand, just doing some laboring work. And I'd been doing that for a couple of months just because I felt really lost a little bit towards the end of the year. Because I really wanted to evolve and change my personal training practice and even my jiu-jitsu practice, my coaching skills, or my coaching, or how I manage the Wolf Life Academy. And I was just so lost and confused at moments because how I used to do things might work but I'm just not that person anymore. And so I would come here to humble myself, like truly humble myself, because when I used to study at university, I used to work in construction with my dad, and it used to really humble me, because I'd just be walking around thinking, I was king shit and all these things. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm just being a laborer. And so it would humble me. It would bring me back down to earth. And also, there's nothing wrong with being a laborer, because I'm building and growing these things. So I've been coming here with the boys and helping them. And I was telling German, I said, this work just really humbles me. It makes me really think about what I want to do with the Wolf Life Academy. It makes me think about what I want to do with my recovery. It makes me think about what I want to do with my personal training business. And since I've been doing that and helping the boys out and then speaking to you guys, it's just brought so much more clarity for the next phase in my life in terms of my businesses and what I want to do. And it's quite liberating, but it is at the same time a painful process to go through in trying to discover what your purpose in life is. And yes, there are moments where I've thought my purpose in life is to be the best husband or the best father. But upon reflection, upon meditating, I've realized, no, my purpose in life is to serve according to my beliefs and values.
Yeah, 100%. And I think, I always wonder, where did this idea of what success, because purpose and success is very linked, right?
Yeah.
Because your purpose, if you're living your purpose, it means that you're successful, but then it has to be linked to what is your idea of success, right? And, I think about and this might be a very conspiracy theory kind of thing. People might kind of say, oh, come on, Shane. But, I think that there's so many systems put in place in this modern world that pulls us away from our purpose.
Yeah. Because
it pulls us away from our inner self.
Yeah.
Right? You look at living the American dream, right? That's been happening since the early 1900s. It's posed in commercials. Hollywood kind of portrays it as well, the American dream. And it's this person that just starts off in this job, and he's working his way up, and finally, he's this big rig in the workplace. But you're constantly working for someone else. You're constantly serving other people, right? In order for status and wealth.
Yeah.
Right, that's the American dream. You're driving that, that red convertible or that Mercedes, and you're wearing the best suits. You're living in this mansion, and you're like, fuck, I've made it. That's that success, right? And then even growing up watching Disney films, right? Women's idea of success is finding that Prince Charming, having that perfect fairy tale kind of idea, and then all of a sudden their purpose is linked to external sources, that person, and then the moment that guy lets them down, they've put all their energy into this for their whole life, right? But then so many things pull us away, including the food that we eat, man, what we have access to, what we don't have access to. It's being pulled away. And that's why when people see all these esoteric kind of practices like breath work and stuff as well, and I'll use the word new very lightly, people forget that these are ancient tools that have been used for centuries, right? There's nothing new about it. And why people are being so drawn to it is because, we're living in this time of Christ consciousness where people are starting to become awakened, and they're realizing what really matters to them. And they're being called to their roots. They're being called to that inner calling, right? And these things are bringing them back to their roots, right? It's nothing new about it. It's just that the whole, the rose-colored lens has been lifted off, and they're starting to see what really matters and what success really is. Success isn't external, it's internal.
Yeah, I was going to say, I was reflecting on this last night when I knew this podcast was coming up, and I was thinking about that thing, the massive number and the chance of us being here, and how much that changed my life a long time ago. But then when I thought about it, I was like, isn't it funny that so much now on social media and articles and books and everything is focusing so much on how to be mentally happy, how to be mentally healthy, and all these things we need to do, and how hard we have to work to just be happy and to be healthy. And if we do truly have that number, that astronomical number of those chances of us being here, it shouldn't be that hard to just be happy and healthy and just enjoy life. But we're all living with anxiety, we're all living with depression and all of these things, and we have to fight so hard to just be in a good place when technically we shouldn't. And then when you think about it, it's like, well, why is that? And you think, okay, well, would anybody work if we didn't have to pay a mortgage? No, probably not. We'd be off, learning a language or traveling the world or whatever. Okay, so if we didn't have money, which humans established as a way of bartering, then we would all be happy. So that's one little thing in there that, how do we get money? Oh, well, we have to work. Well, what do we have to do that? Oh, well, you have to go sit at like a computer desk every day and sit in a slumped position that our bodies weren't meant to be in front of screens that ruin our eyes in a way that they weren't meant to work. And like, just the way we've done things is wrong. And I actually love, as much as I hate social media, I hate what it does to people's mentalities and, trying to do the competition game and trying to make your life seem as better than everyone else's. I do love that things like influencers have kind of shaken the core around how you can make money these days, because it's kind of taken the idea of needing to work for a corporation to make money and to be strapped to that desk and do that. Now individuals can kind of take it back themselves again and be like, oh, there's all these opportunities now for me to make money. I could do it in all these creative ways online, and I don't have to do it in this way that's going to mean I'm tied down to a desk for 10 hours a day or something to make me depressed. I think it kind of helps then people find their purpose a bit more, because there's so many different avenues now as an individual to control that thing, which is money, that kind of controls the world and keeps everybody strapped down and stops them from just living them that happy life.
Yeah, it's distractions, right? It pulls us away from it. But you know what? That being said, though, I can hand on heart say that if I was gifted $60 million today or $1 billion today, I'd still do what I do with Soulflex, but probably with less urgency. I probably, maybe do it like maybe 2 or 3 days a week or a few mornings a week or whatever, but I would still do it. But mind you, if I was teaching full time and I found out that I won 60 mil, I'd probably leave at recess when that bell went. I'd be like, I'm fucking getting out of here. Yeah, the kids are waiting there like in lines. And I'd be like, sorry guys, buy yourself something good from the canteen. See you later. But like, I can hand on heart say that I would still do what I do. And I think I was telling you about this book called Ikigai, and I've got the words in Japanese tattooed on my arm, right, to remind me. And it's, have you heard of that book?
No, I haven't.
So it's a really beautiful book, right? And it's these two researchers, and they were looking at the areas in the world that had the highest amount of centenarians, right?
Oh, like the blue zones.
The blue zones, yeah. And they went to this island, I think it was in Okinawa in Japan.
Yeah.
And it had, it was up there with the highest amount of centenarians, but they weren't 100-year-olds sick in bed. They were still working. They were still playing games with their community. They'd go meet up and play games in the park. They were, and then they were saying like, what are you guys doing differently to us Westerners? What are you guys doing? And one of the words that came up, they were talking about their diet and stuff. They're not eating until they're 100% full. They're still doing things within the community. So community is a huge thing. And we know that, like, when there's weeks where we haven't caught up for coffee and stuff. I was talking to Seb about this the other day as well, about like how fulfilling it is when, and how much it fills our souls when we just sit down and have a coffee together, have lunch together, right? That sense of community. But one word that came up was this Japanese term called ikigai. And ikigai is when you combine your passion with your purpose, right? And all these people in this island were doing jobs that combined their passion with their purpose, whether it was just growing vegetables in their garden and then feeding their community with healthy food, right? They were still doing that. They were still doing like harvesting their crops at the age of 100, right? They were still doing jobs like teaching Tai Chi at the park. They were passionate about Tai Chi, right? And there was purpose because people were coming in and they were feeling good. They were still teaching that at the age of 100, right? They weren't just sitting there waiting until they were 7 years old to retire, right? Because you know what the problem with that is? That makes life go really quick when you're sitting and waiting. And I noticed that when I was teaching, I was counting down, oh, there's 10 more weeks to the term. There's 3 more weeks to the term. Oh shit, 1 more week to the term. Cool. All right, 3 more terms left for the year. All of a sudden, 1 year flew by. All of a sudden, 10 years flew by.
Yeah.
And I was like, holy shit, where did 10 years go? Right? Now, Mondays look like Sundays to me. Tuesdays look like Fridays to me, right? Because I'm so much more present, right? I'm not just waiting for the end. And I'm so blessed. I got that tattooed on my arm because I realized I found my ikigai, right? I found something that links my passion and my purpose, right? And, you know, I'm not telling you that if you're a school teacher and you don't like your job to quit your job today, or if you're a tradie and you want to do something else, go become a breathwork instructor. That's not what I'm saying, because your purpose shouldn't be linked to your job either.
Correct.
Right? Because again, that becomes an external thing. And like I said, if Soulflex was taken away from me, I should still be able to live my purpose. I saw, I was at the train station at Central, and I was waiting for Mick. This is like probably a couple months ago, and he was running late. So I was just sitting outside the train station, and I started talking to this homeless lady. She came up to me and started talking to me about God, just randomly. And I was sitting there having a half an hour chat with her about God. And then we started praying together. And like people walking past going like, fuck, this guy's like look weird, right? Because I was sitting there just praying on the side of a curb. And then she was telling me about her life afterwards, and we were chatting. She was living her purpose. She didn't have a home. She didn't have a job. She was living her purpose. Do you know what I mean? And the thing is, a lot of people, including 20-year-old Shane, was thinking that my purpose was this objective that I had to obtain, right? Some end result that I was waiting for, right? But if that's your idea of purpose, you're going to be waiting your whole life. Every single day you're living your purpose. Your purpose is a ongoing thing, right? The way that you spoke to the barista this morning, you know, the way that you diffuse a situation with your wife when you were having an argument today, you know, the person that you let through on the way here, like when they were trying to merge lanes, all those things. When you're living a virtuous and authentic life of love and serving yourself so that you can serve other people, that's living your purpose.
I agree.
Yeah.
I feel the same. Yeah, like if you're looking for a profession to do that for you, it's going to be a mistake. And then you're just going to turn that job or that profession into a monster as well at the same time.
Yeah.
It's funny, as soon as you said about if I got $6 million or a one lotto or whatever, I'd still do what I do. I had that reflection in that moment of, I probably still would do what I do, but I wouldn't be doing it from the point of like, oh, I'd be going to advertising agencies and trying to make content for them or whatever. My first thought was, oh, I'd probably be making films and trying to make like uplifting films that make people feel and brightens up their day and makes their life better. That would be my purpose.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so it's interesting now that it's like, oh, maybe I should be trying to work more towards that line of things.
Yeah, man.
100%, yeah. Because the urgency and the desperation pulls us away from it.
Yeah.
Right? But then, like, you know, like say if there was no limitations, and that's like, you know, when you're manifesting, right? You got to manifest with no limitations, because our ego will come in and kind of be like, oh, but you know, what if this happens? Oh, this will never work out. If you take away all limitations, what kind of life would you live? Do you know what I mean? There was no obstacles. Someone said to you, here's a magic lamp, there's a genie in there, you got your wishes. And there was no obstructions, no what ifs, no obstacles in the way. What would you be doing? You know, and that's your purpose.
Yeah. I feel like as well, if I won $1 billion in the lotto, I don't think I would change what I'm doing. I think I would continue just working on these personal projects like this podcast. But that's why, like, also adamant about starting another podcast, was because I wanted to serve more. I wanted to keep chasing, you know, that purpose that I want to live by. And that's why I'm like, well, no, I'm just not going to wait. I'm going to do it now. Like, money, of course, you need it in this world, to an extent. And, you know, things cost money. Like, you got to pay for things.
It's financial freedom as well.
You
so
know,
you can do things like
it
this.
is important.
Yeah.
But if that is your owner, if that is your master, you're going to be serving the wrong things, you know. And you know, I drive a Mercedes, and I remember when I got it, it was just about a dick flex. And I've been saying it for ages, like, I'm selling my car because I just want to buy a ute. And it's like, why? It's like, oh, because my car's too small. It looks great, but it's just not practical. And I want to go to the park and just chuck bikes at the back. I want to chuck all the fishing rods at the back and just go take the dogs everywhere. Those things align with the purpose that I'm trying to live for.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be a slave, you know, to just, I don't know, like perception. I don't want to be a slave to like an idea of what success is.
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with owning a Mercedes because they're great cars.
Yeah,
they're durable. You know, they're sturdy.
It's the reasoning.
Good cars.
It's the reasoning behind it.
It's the authentic reason, right? Exactly. Yeah.
Like
that's
that.
it.
That's what really drives it. And even with professions, like it's like, why are you doing that job? Is it because your dad always wanted you to do that?
Yeah.
Like my dad would always say to me, he's like, you got to go to uni and study building construction management. I'm like, why the fuck would I want to do that? I hate it. He's like, oh, because there's heaps of jobs in it and that's what you're going to do. And I'm like, I don't want to do that at all.
It's funny, even in high school, I used to cop so much shit from people because when they used to ask like, oh, what do you want to do? And everybody had all these things about, oh, you know, I want to be a doctor. I want to do this. I always used to just say, I just want to do the job that gives me the most amount of money to work the least time possible so I can still go do all the things I enjoy doing, but I just don't have to worry about making money. And everyone used to go, oh, it's because you're lazy and you're blah, blah, blah. But I think even back then, it was probably my mum who instilled this in me of, you know, just be happy. Do what makes you happy. And I think that was always just it was just always instilled in me. And yeah, even then I was always just like, oh, I'm just going to do whatever I can that gives me the most money, that allows me the most time to pursue all the pursuits that I want to.
Because even like touching on that point, like, and that's what I've learned is even do what makes you happy. The problem with that is that you can't always be happy. And the second that you do something to be happy and it doesn't bring you happiness, then you develop this unhealthy belief about it. And it's, for me, it's do what you're going to be good at to serve. Like, how can you serve? Like, what are you contributing towards? Like, what is it exactly that you're contributing towards? Because that's what makes me feel a bit shit sometimes about my previous challenges. Because I helped people lose a lot of weight. Yes, I got people on a health journey. But you know what else I contributed to? People comparing themselves to others. People becoming obsessed with their bodies. I contributed to people then possibly developing some kind of body dysmorphia. Like, when you think about it, like, what was I contributing to? What was I serving? And now that's why I really, really think about how can I serve my community better through love, kindness, non-judgment, and all these things. And even like, say, Instagram influencers, it's like, well, what are you serving? Even people like in the jiu-jitsu community, it's like, you know, what are you serving? What message are you sending out there? What are you contributing to this world? People who do OnlyFans, again, no judgment. If you want to take your clothes off and do whatever, okay. But what are you serving? Are you serving people developing like a pornography addiction? Are you serving people developing like, you know, body consciousness? Like, what is it that you're serving? Even like, say, you can apply this to any profession. Like, what is it that you're serving? Are you making this world a better place or not? You know? And so,
$1 million question. Hey, what are you serving?
And it's deep, man. And again, I'm not judging people for what they do. Like, if you know, I don't know, like, I know so many people as well that are like corporate executives and making a ton of money. And it's like, okay, but what are you serving? Like, what is it that you're serving? And it's just an important question to ask sometimes. Because yes, sometimes your profession might not be a way that you serve your community. You might do heaps of different other things to serve your community. But are you making this place a better place or a worse place? And even like, you know, being the owner of a jiu-jitsu academy, I really think about that as well. It's like, well, how do I carry myself? What kind of message am I sending out there to the kids that do jiu-jitsu or adults who do jiu-jitsu? And even like to adults, like, you know, when they're training, I'm like, remember, you know, make it your goal not to submit other people. Make it your goal to be like, you know, how am I contributing to this class? How am I contributing to this community with my jiu-jitsu? Because like I've had, you know, I hear people all the time in jiu-jitsu. I'm like, you know, why are you doing jiu-jitsu? And they're like, oh man, I've got so many demons, you know, I'm fighting my demons. And I'm like, man, jiu-jitsu is not therapy. Don't confuse them. You know, jiu-jitsu, because if you're coming here to get rid of demons, and so the idea is to fight demons or fight your problems, then you're going to be fighting demons your whole life, because your brain's going to be like, oh yeah, you like fighting these demons and you got rid of that one. Here's another one. Here's another one. You know, you're coming here to get rid of problems. Here's another one. And it's like,
it's never ending.
It's never ending, but you should be coming to jiu-jitsu or things like this to build and grow skills, to build and grow community, to build and grow love and peace within yourself. And that's why, like, sometimes I hate the jiu-jitsu community so much. And I've contributed to this previously in the past. It's just a dick flex. You know what I mean? It's like, look at all the things that I've won. Look at all the things that I've achieved. And the list goes on. And it just creates this really unhealthy thing. So I'm like, well, what am I serving here? And it's like, oh yeah, you're serving your insecurities. You know, you're serving the devil in many different ways. You're not serving a community. And so... yeah, I'm so fucking glad though that I've come to this realization at the age of 39, because I really like apply this now to everything I do.
Yeah.
And whenever I make a decision, or I'm not too sure about stuff, like I will always ask, you know, what would Jesus do?
I was going to ask you that, yeah.
But sometimes I even say, what would Shane do? I do. What would Adam do? You know, what would my coach Mark do? What would he do in this situation? So people that I like respect and love so much, and I value their opinion, I ask myself, you know, what would they do? I used to always go to my wife, because my wife is so fucking smart. Like, intellectually, she's just so smart. And I'd get mad at her. I'd be like, why are you studying to be an occupational therapist? Like, you should be a surgeon. You should be saving kids' lives. Like, what a waste of a brain, right? But she's like, that's not what I want to do. That's not how I want to serve this community. And again, just being the ignorant fuck that I was back then, I didn't know what occupational therapy was. And then I researched it, like how many children's lives she's going to impact and influence and make better. And by doing that, how many households will benefit from that? How much suffering or less suffering now that parents will go through, because someone like that genuinely wants to serve their community in that way. And so, you know, I really think about, and this is something that people can do. So if you're not too sure about how to, you know, develop your true purpose in life, it's like, well, who are people that you value a lot? Not because of their money or because of their perceived success on Instagram, but like how they live their lives. You know, what do they do? Okay, what are their values like? How do they serve their community? And almost mimic that to a degree, and just start there. I think that's like something that people can take home today.
You know what's the crazy thing, man? Like mimicking people's lives that you admire. You know, growing up, I was caught in that whole Hollywood thing where, you know, you just like idolize people like, you know, Michael Jordan or like, you know, people like Usher and stuff, all these kinds of things. And you look at their lifestyles and then
Usher?
I don't know, it's the first thing that came to my head.
Fuck, man, you went from like Michael Jordan, no offense to Usher, but I'm just like, you went from like, I thought you were going to say like Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, LeBron James.
No,
like Usher.
It was the first thing that came to my head. I think Usher was playing Usher on the I think you got a batters on the way here. I was like, oh, Usher. But
it explains the see-through shirts.
Jesse McCartney, you know. I don't want another pretty face. But really, like, I think about myself as a teenager. I would dress like those celebrities. I would walk like those celebrities. I would talk like those celebrities. Even like my accent would change to kind of match those celebrities. I would see like, oh, like, you know, they're wearing that kind of sunglasses. I'd want to buy that.
Yeah.
You know, they're this is how they talk to women. This is how I talk to women. This is how they, you know, like hang out with their friends. This is how I was literally just mimicking and parroting what celebrities were doing growing up as a kid, right? From primary school to high school, even a bit after, like when I was in my 20s, right? And now I was going to ask you, but you kind of talked about it when you said, what would Jesus do? Like, what is when you think about your purpose and the way you live your life, we talked about purpose being living a virtuous and authentic life. You know, what is your anchor and what is your compass, right? And now, like, when I read the New Testament, I'm not reading the Bible for the sake of reading the Bible. I'm not reading the Bible to say like, hey God, you know, can I go to heaven? Because look, I'm spending my night reading the Bible. I'm reading it because he's my idol. He's my role model. He's the person I want to mimic. It's not Michael Jordan. It's not Usher. It's not like any of these people. It's
like God's on the throne. He's got Jesus to the right, Usher to the left.
I'm just gonna get your attention. No, but it was it's Christ.
Yes,
he's the person. And like, you know, 10 years ago, I would think it's lame trying to live a life like Jesus.
Same.
100%. I think this is lame. It's the last thing I want to do. Now, I couldn't think of a more peaceful way to live my life, right? Than to just see how he lived his life and mimic that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like, I think we should go on to like, because you've talked about like you've got a few different notes about religion and stoicism and things that have come up. I think we should kind of touch on that. But I'll read you 3 Bible verses that I
love it.
Lorna and I were talking about this last night, and we were going through the Bible, and she sent me a couple of references, and I was reading through them. And these ones really stuck out to me because it sums up everything that we spoke about today, about living that inward life rather than outward life, and who we're serving, right? So this is Proverbs 19:20-21. Listen to advice and accept discipline, and at the end, you will be counted among the wise. Many are the plans in a person's heart, but it is the Lord's purpose that prevails. Matthew 6:33, but seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well. Therefore, do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. And then this one here is the one that really resonated with me, right? Colossians 3:23, whatever you do, work at it with all your heart. This is what we talked about with the jobs that we're doing, right? What are we doing it for? What's the purpose? Whatever you do, work at it with all your heart, as working for the Lord, not for human masters, since you know you will receive an inheritance at the end, right? So the moment that we are just working for the sake of working, or doing things for the sake of doing things, or serving human masters, right? That's going to pull us away from our purpose.
Yeah.
Right. But then like, and you may not believe in God, but like doing it for, I guess a universal purpose, right? That's why like the word universe and God gets thrown around interchangeably, so that it kind of appeases to all religions and denominations, but doing it for a universal purpose, and links back to that, I guess, that law of interconnectedness, understanding that, we all come from the same source, regardless of what that source looks like to you, right? And even when you read the book of Genesis, right, like that's the story about Adam and Eve, the first book of the Bible. No one knows who wrote that book. They think that it might have been Moses, but it was written like, obviously after it happened, and there might have been some like oral tradition that's been passed down about it and stuff as well. But when it talks about the story of creation, how God created the earth, created the sun and the moon, created the land to separate the ocean, created the sky to separate the waters above and below. It was all done for a purpose, right? God had a purpose. And then when he created Adam, he created him in the likeness of himself, right? And people get confused thinking, does that mean God looks like a human being? It's not the physical likeness. It's the mannerisms, right? He's created human beings to be able to feel, to be able to have experienced love, to be able to experience free will, to be able to build relationships, right? Just like him. That's what he meant when he said create him in the likeness of himself, right? So then we're put on this planet, and we are put here with worth, right? We aren't worthless. Our life isn't futile. We have a purpose. We've been put here for a purpose because we're created in the likeness of God. Do you know what I mean? Like every single person on this planet has elements of God in him. The moment he was breathing air into our lives when we were born, we were given a purpose.
That's beautiful, man. Yeah, I was saying to you and Adam that, like, I was researching, stuff on the Bible, and just seeing like the differences between, like, say, Buddhism and Christianity, or even Stoicism, in terms of like purpose and what it all talks about it. Because let me just pull up this little file that I've got and like compare the views, but like you see the overlapping themes across so many different things, where a lot of the times, like, so if you look at in Buddhism, like their source of purpose is, liberation from suffering, where Christianity is about your relationship with God, and then in terms of Buddhism and then its key practice is like meditation and mindfulness, where Christianity, their key practice is faith, love and service. And then in Buddhism, like you've got like the ultimate goal of nirvana, separating yourself from suffering and the rebirth, where the ultimate goal in Christianity is eternal life with God. And then also the focus in Buddhism, people would argue that it's like, self-awareness, detachment. And with Christianity, it's, love for God and others. And so these things go like hand in hand so many times, like they overlap. And I feel like I know me and you, I think that's why we connect so well, is that sometimes it's important to like take things, from other, wise teachers, like things like from Buddhism or Hinduism. And then I always reflect and look at, well, how does this tie in with what, the Bible says, or what Jesus says, or what Jesus has done? And, when I look at, the story of Jesus, like how you mentioned, see, my favorite verse in the Bible, it's not really so much a verse, it's a story. And it's one that I never really hear people talk about much. And it's during the Last Supper, like the last hour, Jesus knows what's up. He knows that, Judas will betray him and all these things. And it's about, and this, I remember the very first time I read this story, like the first time I read the gospel properly. And like, I remember I was crying heaps in it because it was so beautiful, but it was just so profoundly sad. It broke my heart. And it's when Jesus is before he's breaking bread, he's getting a towel and he's got like a bucket with water, and he's cleaning like the disciples' feet, cleaning their hands and their feet, and he's doing it to all the disciples. And he's even like cleaning the hands and the feet of Judas, like the person that that's going to betray him. And one of the disciples like says to him, like, there's like no way, like you shouldn't be cleaning our hands and feet. You're our Lord and Savior. We should be cleaning your hands and feet. And he's like, no, he goes, and this is like an example of like, if I'm your Lord and Savior and I'm willing to do this for you, then what should you be willing to do for your equals? And that's service.
Yeah.
That's, and I remember like I was reading yesterday, the Gospel of Matthew, and, Jesus is talking to people and running through like the commandments, and, he's going into detail about what's the point of just being nice to people who love you. You need to show that love and kindness, that giving nature to people who don't love you, who don't like you, who you don't know. And so these things just highlight to me like, the values and the way to be. And because with my own anxieties, I would tell people, I'm like, man, I just want to be fucking happy again. I just don't want to be suffering so much anymore. I just want to be happy. But I've started to let go of that idea. Not that I'm never going to be happy, because I do experience happiness and joy. But I understand though that living this life as a Christian, living the life according to Jesus, that you do have to carry your own cross. And that is serving something bigger than you, greater than you. And that is like your community and God. And that going through that door is narrow. And there will be a tremendous amount of suffering. But I've gotten to the point now where I'm okay with that. I acknowledge that and I accept that. And I think that's beautiful. That brings me something greater than happiness. And that's that peace that we talk about. And so, yeah, I just feel like purpose is just something that we get so wrong, man. Like we really do. And like we think my purpose in life is to establish a business, a company that's going to change the world, and I'm going to be on a yacht in Monaco sailing, and I'll have people feeding me lobster and drinking champagne. And it's like, man, that is, in many ways, when you are liberated from that idea, you realize that that's actually hell, because you realize how far you are from God. And so when I reflect on the life that I used to live, when I thought I was happy, I was like, man, I was in hell, because I was so separated from God. I was so separated from my wife and my children. And then when I woke up from all that and I started to experience all these weird things happening to me, all these different challenges, all this suffering, I realized I was closer to God because I was carrying my cross.
Yeah.
And that's when I made all these different connections. And, I am blessed to live the life I live, and we were even talking about it last night with my sister-in-law and brother-in-law about thinking about we want to, build a house, me and Rose, and move, to a particular area. And we could have done it a while ago, but it would have just been ego.
Yeah.
And we're like, we don't want to make things harder for ourselves. Like we just want to live a life where we're just good human beings, and where we're not just working to pay a ridiculous mortgage just to flex. Look how big the land is that I've got. Look at this house that I've got. And there's nothing wrong with having land and a beautiful house. But again, the intention, like what's the intention behind it? And that's something that Buddhism has taught me. And that's something that meditation has taught me, even breathwork has taught me. It's like people will meditate with the intention to get rid of anxiety, to get rid of stress and depression. And it's like, no, the intention for these things is to build and grow skills. And so like when I meditate, and before I, really get into it, I lay out the intention. And the intention is, I don't meditate to get rid of these things. I meditate, it's almost like learning to, I don't want to avoid, you're avoiding drowning, rather learning how to swim. I'm not avoiding now internal or external experiences. And so when I say internal experiences, I mean thoughts, feelings, emotions. When I talk about external experiences, I talk about like uncomfortable physical sensations, uncomfortable physical moments. I meditate now to build the skills to be able to navigate and swim through anything that life has to throw at me.
Yeah.
Same with praying. I don't pray anymore so that God gets rid of my anxiety or so that God gets rid of my suffering. I pray now to God to build a relationship with Him.
Yeah.
To understand who God is, to open myself up, and so that I can not get rid of these things, but rather surrender these things to Him.
Yeah.
And it's very, very different. And so I feel purpose and intention are so aligned. And that is like a question you can ask. It's like, why? And it honestly applies to anything. It's like, why am I sending my child to a $25,000 school or a $40,000 school? What's the intention behind it? Is it truly to give your children the best education, or is it a dick flex for your friends and family? What's the intention of buying a $3 million house? Is it because you want to have an amazing household to live with your family, to create beautiful memories, to raise your children to be loving, compassionate human beings? Or is it a dick flex for social media?
Yeah.
What is the purpose of you going, say, joining a run club? Is it to be, or joining a jiu-jitsu academy? Is it to be part of a community, to grow and build something beautiful with these people, build relationships and friendships that will last forever? Or is it take photos and put it on social media?
Yeah.
Like, what is the intention behind your actions? And that will really influence the purpose.
And again, there's no right or wrong way to live your life. It doesn't matter what job you have. It doesn't matter what car you drive. If you want to be sailing in Monaco, that's fine. And if you want to be, having a $3 million mansion, having your property, that's fine. But then it comes down to that, living that life of virtues and authenticity. Like,
Correct.
You can only answer yourself, like, are you doing this for yourself, or are you doing this because of other people's expectations? You know what I mean? And that's what it comes down to, because that's the difference between losing yourself and finding yourself, right?
Yeah.
Who you're doing it for. And I just want to touch on like one more thing as well with, are you familiar with the Yoga Sutras?
No.
So, because when we talked about Buddhism, right, like obviously Buddhism was derived from Hinduism, and there's so many correlations with that. But then when I was like, I've been studying the Yoga Sutras and a bit of like Vedic philosophy and stuff as well. And again, like you said, I really recommend people, especially even if you're Christian, like, a lot of other Christians and churches will say that you shouldn't do it.
Yeah, I've heard that. I think it's madness.
It is. Doing this and understanding different philosophies around the world, whether it's Stoic philosophy or whether it's Hindu philosophy or Buddhist philosophy, has helped me understand my relationship with Jesus Christ so much better.
Same,
and so much, it's deepened my relationship with Him. And I was reading like the about the Yoga Sutras, right? And Patanjali is like he was a ancient Indian philosopher and an author, a sage. And at the time, and when they talk about modern Hinduism, it's still talking about the BC times, because India's just freaking an old country. But like, we're still talking about BC times, but he was around before Christ. And at the time, there was probably like almost 2,000 different schools of yoga that was kind of separating yoga at the time. And what he did was he condensed it all and wrote these Yoga Sutras to explain the basic principles and philosophies of yoga, right? And yoga isn't just the classes that we go to now that we see. It's yoga is a way of life. right? When we look at pranayama breath work, that's yoga. You're syncing your breath with the movement. When you go to yoga class and you're doing those stretches, you're aligning the breath with the movement, right? And the reason why we have those classes and the reason why we do these kind of breath works is it allows you to understand how to flow with life, right? So you can apply those principles outside of the class, right? And so he had these, he talked about the 8 different limbs of yoga, and he broke it down, right? And he describes the 5 virtues that lead to the final limb of yoga, which is called samadhi. And samadhi is a state of mental stillness, absorption, so you're applying the knowledge that you've learned, and essentially from all that, enlightenment, right? And the Sutra 1.20 describes trust, right, and faith, because when you are living your life of purpose, you have to apply faith to it, right? But they look at faith just like with the Bible, right? This is the correlation I made here, that just like in the Bible, they don't describe faith as being blind, right? Faith is never blind. It's not just putting your faith into an empty thing. It's not like just jumping off a cliff with no parachute. Right? It's about questioning, reflecting, and discussion around the wisdom that you've obtained, right? That's where it is. It's doing that inner work, doing that shadow work, right? And that's what the scriptures teach us in the Bible. That is what these yoga sutras talk about as well. You know, we don't do it to impress someone. We don't do it to impress our teachers. We don't do it because there's a girl that you're trying to attune and she's into it. So you're like, oh, I'm going to show her that I'm doing this too. That's not why you do it. You're not doing it for status. You're not doing it to impress God. You know, we use it as a tool to free ourselves. We use it as a tool to find freedom within by breaking these patterns and cycles that we've been living and discerning between our own intuition and other people's demands and expectations. So essentially breaking out of the matrix. Right? And that's what these yoga sutras teach us. And, you know, if you explore, you know, Stoicism, if you explore Buddhist philosophy, Hindu philosophy, other religions too, not doing it to serve other gods, but doing it to understand how to have a relationship with yourself, how to have an authentic relationship with yourself to then serve this universe. It's going to deepen your own faith.
I 100% agree. And that's why I've never understood, like, I've seen videos on social media where you do have certain like Christian or religious figures saying that if you do yoga, you're participating in like this ungodly act. And it's like, man, this is just such an ignorant way to look at life, that these things just, like, my love in the Christian doctrine, like in Jesus, has been heightened tremendously through things like meditation, through Buddhist practices. It has heightened my relationship with God so much more. It's brought me so much closer to God. And yeah, I just think that's a beautiful summary, man. I'm just blown away with, I guess, the content from today's chat. And I just truly hope people can use some of the things that we've discussed today to apply to their lives and just to make the changes necessary for themselves to discover that purpose. And my final little piece of advice would be just enjoy the journey, right?
100%.
Just go out there and try things and just, you know, I guess start off, try to be authentic, discover that authentic self. Just surrender yourself to something bigger than you. Think about how right now you're contributing to this world, to your local community, to your loved ones, to your friends.
Yeah.
What changes can you make there? And just slowly go on this amazing journey.
It's like what the Bible says, don't worry about tomorrow. Tomorrow will worry about itself. Find your purpose in today.
Yeah.
Right?
And you just did say one thing just that did remind me again, like the overlap where you were talking about, like, I guess not showing off these things. Jesus would mention things like, don't be like the Pharisees who go around and tell the whole world that they're fasting. And he's like, wash your face, put oil on your face. Don't let anyone know that you're doing these things. Do these things in secret, because the only person that's going to know that you're fasting is you and God.
Yeah.
Or he would say, don't go up to the top of a mountain and pray so that everyone can see you.
Who are you serving?
Yeah. It's like, no, do these things in secret so that you know it's just between you and God.
I should read that this morning, that fasting passage.
Yeah. And it's just so important. Like, think about it. What do people do with social media? They put up, and again, it's no judgment, but it's like they're putting up that they've gone for a 25-kilometer run. It's like, well, why are you putting that out there for? What's wrong with, like, are you trying to motivate people? Are you trying to, like, what is it exactly that you're trying to give there? Are you trying to give a workout for someone to copy, for someone to do? Are you trying to motivate them? Or are you trying to get likes? Are you trying to get reactions? Are you trying to get people to comment on that? Why are you putting up photos of, like, say, you flexing in front of a mirror? Is it to motivate people? Is it to influence them? Or again, are you trying to get people to comment on it, to like it? Like, what are you serving there? What are you trying to give? Or really, what are you trying to take there? And so again, the Bible, talks about these things, about, keep these things, like, for yourself, for you and God. And again, you see the overlap, in all these different doctrines. So, but guys, thank you so much for sitting down today, having an amazing chat on purpose. I feel like we've really touched on some really amazing things, and I do want to remind, like, our listeners, like, if you can please, if you listen to us on Spotify, just to like our show, to subscribe to our show, to maybe write us a generous review. Same thing on YouTube, if you can follow our page.
Share it out to people that might need to listen to it as well. If you've got a friend that needs to listen to it on this topic, share it out. And also just remember, like, we're not sitting here preaching what you should do or what you need to do, or we're no experts. We're only experts in our own life, right? And even that, we're learning every day. But, like, I only know what I know. Adam only knows what he knows. Jonny only knows what he knows. All we're doing is three mates. We're sitting down here having a chat, sharing our experiences, sharing our wisdom that we've obtained in life. And, when you listen to this podcast, just use it as a point of reflection,
That's it.
And direction. That's all it is.
All right, man. I think that's perfect. Thank you so much, boys. Love you.
Thank you,
Great
guys.
chat.
Love you guys.
God bless, guys. Thank you so much.